Hello, welcome back to Board Game Bananas. Here are the bananas, and today the board game is Splendor Duel, the last of the Splendor videos. If you saw my review for the original Splendor board game, you will know that I made these points. I quite like the simplicity, I like how quick and easy it is to set up, but I don't like that there's so much counting going on and that there's no real way to think long term and make a strategy. Have they improved upon these points? Have they made it a hell of a lot worse? Let's find out. Welcome to my review. If we start with the positives from Splendor, I really liked the simple premise. Collect 15 prestige points, first to do that wins, full stop. That's how you win. In this game, they've taken a very simple premise and they've tripled it. And suddenly when you're playing this game, you don't know, should I focus on getting the 20 prestige points, which it is now? Should I focus on the 10 crowns? Or should I focus on the 10 prestige points, but only within one certain coloured gem? They've taken a very simple premise and they've made it 3 times more complicated to the point where it suddenly isn't simple anymore. I also made a minor point about the original game being quick and easy to set up. This game, it's still not quite a difficult game to set up. It doesn't take that long given that a lot of the things are randomly placed. But obviously there's a lot more stuff now and a lot more things that you've got to get out of the box and you've got to set up in a specific kind of way. So I would no longer class this as easy. Again, it's not particularly difficult, but setup here does take a little bit longer. So they haven't completely eradicated that positive, but it's no longer as noteworthy as it was in the original game. On the negative side, I made the point about the original game having far too much counting. For this game though specifically, have they improved upon that point? Well, no. They've added another colour of gemstone, they've added crowns that you suddenly need to count. They've very much taken that negative and then amplified it. And furthermore, on the point where it's very difficult to make a long-term plan, again, they've really amplified that point here. Because you're suddenly looking at it and so the cards have special abilities, and you suddenly need to decide, how much is it worth to get a card that gives me a privilege, or how much is another turn worth to me? If I can get a royal, is it worth doing that right away? Do I want to beat my opponent doing that? Suddenly there's a lot of variables and a lot of factors to think about, and it's just impossible, in my opinion, to think several goes in advance, especially as well given that the board looks like this. And there's so many different combinations of colours that you can choose. And next go, if the board looks like this now, next go it's going to look completely different because I might take some, my opponent might take some gems may go back in the board, and then you've got to work out where in the board they're going to go. There's just so much going on that, it was a difficult enough game to plan several moves in advance before. And now, again, they've really amplified that. But, I hear you say, shouldn't I be judging this game on its own merits, rather than what's better or worse than the original Splendor game? Look, that is a fair point. I would love to judge this game on its own merits, and I absolutely would if it hadn't. One minor point I will concede, I do think this game is reasonably replayable. With the way that the cards are, shuffled randomly, this part of the board is always going to look very different every time. Also, the gemstones are going to come out in different formations, and you're going to be able to get different combinations every time you play. So this game is reasonably replayable. But I think that point kind of gets diminished when I think about the fact I never want to play this game again. There's no real point to it, it's overcomplicated. I just cannot think of a social occasion I'd be going to where I think, hey, do you know which game I should bring? Splendor Duel. So, yes, it is technically replayable, but it's not, because I have absolutely zero interest in doing that. And of course, if I'm judging this game on its own merits, or perhaps lack thereof, I should also bring up some negatives of this game on its own merits. Look, when I've played this game, I've found that it's very rare that you end up buying the cards from the 3 dots pile. If you take this card, for example, right, just one that's randomly on the board, you'd need 8 white gemstones to be able to do that. And obviously there's only 4 there, so the maximum you could have in your hand is 4, and then to get it you would need you know, you would need 4 of the white gemstone discount cards. But the thing is, when you're at that point where you've got 4 white gemstone discount cards and you manage to pick up all of these, you've probably got a decent number of prestige points, you've probably been visited by some royals, you know, you're going to be relatively close to winning the game at that point, so there are probably other cards that you want to take which are probably easier and quicker for you to get. So it's got this entire row of cards here that never really gets used. One thing I will say for both Splendor and Splendor Duel is I do quite like the artwork on the cards. But you know, even in this point, look how small the Splendor Duel card is compared to the Splendor card. You know, I can't even enjoy the artwork as much as I would do in Splendor. If you enjoy this game, please, for the love of God, leave me a comment, because I don't like making this type of video where I just don't see the point in a game. I'd really love to know, am I missing something? Is there an element of this game that makes it more fun or makes it more enjoyable? I'm not a particularly sensationalist kind of guy, I'm quite middle ground usually, so it is with a very heavy heart that I have to give this game, this channel's first 1 out of 5 bananas. I just don't get it, it's rubbish, don't waste your money on it. But hey, I'd really like to know your thoughts and opinions, especially if you like it. Please, for the love of God, tell me why. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, that would probably cheer me up. I've got, yeah, a how to play video on this game, I've got videos on the original Splendor as well, as you've seen. And yeah, please enjoy the game as best as you possibly can. Take care, goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.